Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone today and thank our guests for joining us at our Lowe's Women Build program. The theme for this year's event is Breaking Ground and Building Impact. As women, we have seen the 100th anniversary of our right to vote, and many use that right to elect our first female vice president of the United States. We still are in the midst of a global pandemic, and yet we have found ways as women not just to survive, but to thrive. This week, we have focused on affordable housing crisis in Kittitas County. We've helped people understand the true cost of home, and we walked many through the financial path of home ownership. But this day today is about sisterhood. Together, as women, we've broken ground, we've brought down some barriers, and we've hopefully shared some bread. Today, we share our stories through that sharing, we continue to support one another, learn from each other, and grow. That is part of the impact that we have as women. So with that in mind, let's start today. And thank you again to our panelists. And as each of our speakers start today, please introduce yourself, mainly so I do not butcher any names, and share your story with us. There'll be time at the end for any questions that anybody has. And let's kick it off. First up is Emily Jameson.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Oh, there's a few choices. Let's do that. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Yes. Okay. So I want to introduce myself quickly. My name is Emily Jameson. I work for the Central Washington Home Builders Association, and I am the Member Services Director, and I serve Klickitat, Yakima, and Kittitas counties. I have a counterpart, Cheryl Nelson, who works in the northern 3 counties of Central Washington. And so I work to be engaged with our members. We're a trade association serving the residential construction industry. About a third of our members are builders, and then everyone else are members who are connected to the ecosystem of residential construction. So I'm very proud to have the Kittitas Habitat for Humanity as one of our members. And what I get to do that I really enjoy is, oh, hold on. Let's see if I can, maybe not. I get to travel and get out on the field and meet with our members. I grew up in the Yakima Valley, and I'm really passionate about connecting with the trades. And it's kind of interesting that I fell into this. I worked at Perry Tech for a couple years, and while I was there, Perry Tech is a trade school in Yakima. And while I was there, trying to go on to my next slide, which is just more of a placeholder until, okay, there we go. While I was at Perry, I noticed that there really weren't a lot of women who were in the trades. And so that was something that I began to learn more about and get more excited and passionate about. But for my presentation today, I thought we could have a little bit of fun together. So I'm going to try to move my, I'm doing something with you. I want you to, we're trying new things here. This is what we do at the Home Builders Association. So I'm going to try to move my screen over to this. Okay, can you see this now? Did that not? Okay, oh, hold on. Okay, how about this?
Yes.
Okay, do you see a blue screen that has a square on it, a QR code? Okay, so I have a little trivia game to play with you. If you want to, there's 2 ways to play. You can, if you're on your computer, you can just go to slido.com, and then you're going to enter that number #43735. Or you can take out your phone and just scan the QR code, and it should open up for you. Okay.
Not a clue how to scan it.
So we're going to get going. There's that stuff over on the side that you can see if you didn't get to it yet. Okay, nice. Oh, good. People are showing up. This is fun.
Oh, I can't minimize my screen so that I can do another tab.
I'm excited. I love trivia.
Are we waiting for anyone else?
Yes, me. I can't.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any minimized bar at the top anymore, so I can open a tab and do the .com the
Oh,
site name.
It's slido.com.
No, I can see it, but I can't minimize what's on my screen so that I can open
Oh,
another tab.
gotcha.
I don't know why, but
okay.
it's full screen and nothing else. No.
Well, we're not playing for prizes, so you can
Okay.
just, kind of follow it as we go along and you
Okay.
can make your best guess. Okay.
Okay.
So, first of all, the first question is currently women in the trades represent what % of the workforce? All right.
I have to remind myself that we're not shouting out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. It's actually 3%. And yeah, so women in the trades in Washington state currently make up 3% of the skilled trades and actually 7% of apprentices. And what is really interesting is that anecdotally, when I worked at Perry Tech, you would have companies always wanting to hire women in the skilled trades, and there just weren't very many. So, there's a lot of room for women in these fields. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Good job for the people who picked that. Okay. Kelly is winning. Okay. Now
I picked it too, but oh well.
Good. Pursuing a career in the trades, a woman can expect to earn 20 to 30% more than she would in careers traditionally filled by women. True or false? All right. We got a lot of people voting for true. And that is correct.
Oh, good job, Monica.
That is true. That is true. So the skilled trades pay family wages. And so that is in comparison to fields that have been traditionally dominated by women. So like being a secretary or a teacher or something like that, where you see majority of women and not men. All right. During World War II, women joined the industrial workforce, becoming a critical piece of the war effort. From 1939 to 1945, they built how many aircraft?
Oh my, no clue. A lot.
Hey. Oh my goodness. A lot of you voted for 300,000, and that is actually correct.
Whoa.
I am blown away by these statistics because it really was such an interesting, time in the history of the United States to engage women in building for the war effort. And they built 300,000 aircraft,
Wow.
12,000 ships, 86,000 tanks, and 64,000 landing craft, in addition to millions of artillery pieces and small weapons. So that's a fun, super cool thing for us to remember about the contributions that women make to our economy and the war effort in World War II. Good job, Monica.
Yay, Monica.
Here is your next question. 51% of blank were homeowners in 2019. Single women is the answer. So looking at that data, 51% of single women were homeowners in 2019. And in 2019, the data also shows that 40% of households are headed by women, which I think is really actually quite significant, that 40% of heads of households are women.
Killing it, Monica.
Okay, in 2017, national data shows that 41% of mothers were the sole or primary breadwinner for their families. In Washington state, this number was okay. Ooh, it is actually 30%. I mean, we're just like spitballing here. So, but yes, in Washington state, it's 30% of women are the sole or main breadwinner for their families. And 25% are called a co-breadwinner, which means that they're bringing in at least 25% of their family's income. All right. Okay. Girls who grow up in families that own their own home are 30% less likely to become pregnant during their teenage years. True, totally true. There is some really interesting information that's coming out on how home ownership impacts children's development. And I'm sure, Kelly, that you've seen this. I was really excited when I was doing some research, because I think that's like a thing we all know, right? That it's important for families to have housing and stable housing, and it's important for kids to grow up in a home and stable housing. Yes, like, but it's really neat to see that there's some quantifiable stuff that's coming out that can show, like, you know, these are the positive impacts that being in not just stable housing, but being in a family that owns a home. And these are some of the positive implications that happen for kids over the long haul. And you know, like, all of this is kind of like a way for me to sort of get around and talking about the value that Habitat brings to our communities by taking something that often is really difficult to attain and then creating this very important generational building block that once a family has home ownership, you know, the things that their children are able to achieve, just because there's another level of stability, like that just is there's a ripple effect that started that goes on and on. So it's really like, these are the things that I'm passionate about. You know, women are very important to families, very important to being the piece that helps really anchor a family and a child in their future success. And I love that Habitat is also an important piece in our communities of helping make home ownership attainable for families who might not otherwise be able to get that. Okay. Did I say false? That can't be right. I think that I messed up. Okay. Moving on. So you guys are everyone was right. Okay. Moving on. What do we say? It's not a Zoom meeting if somebody doesn't mess up somehow. Okay. So the National Association of Home Builders conducted a study that found the impact of building single family homes supported how many local jobs? Okay, wow, love that the results are everywhere. It's actually 394. I'm so stoked about this. This is really one of those cool things that you would, you know, when we're talking about the ripple effects. So the National Association, which is a part of what the Central Washington Home Builders Association is a part of, but as at the national level, they really looked at 3 different phases of construction. So in communities where 100 new homes were being built, they wanted to see what the impact was. And actually, Kittitas County was considered in this because they looked at places all over the nation where there was a lot of construction happening. And of course, we know it's happening in Kittitas County. And so phase 1 is the phase that measures the effects that result from the construction activity itself. And then phase 2 captures the effects that occur as a result of the wages and the profits from phase 1 being spent in the community. And they found that building 100 homes in a community impacts 394 jobs. Like, you know, it's just really cool to see how important not only just having housing is, but the new construction and building homes, and how many of us are connected to that being part of our economy, and another element of stability, right? Okay. Next, the median home price for Washington State is $522,023. The median, okay? Nuts to me. The income needed to qualify for this home is, give me your best guess. Okay. Woo. All right, you guys, $112,000 to qualify for a median priced home in Yakima. I mean, in Washington State. We didn't have data on Ellensburg, or Kittitas County, but we did look at in Yakima County. They gave us information that a median home in Yakima County is $358,000. The income needed to qualify is $78,000.
In Ellensburg, it's 360. It's 368,000.
Okay.
Is the median price for a home right now. The average income right now is 51,000.
Yeah.
So people aren't actually, there's 46% of the people in the county cannot qualify for a home right now.
Exactly. That is one of the things that the Home Builders Association works very hard on, is being a voice for affordability for home, for consumers. And it's really interesting getting into the economics of this, because we have this metric where we evaluate for every $1,000 that the price of a home goes up, which can be about regulatory things or permitting or fees, or, you need to do this, you need to do that, then suddenly there's another $10,000 on top of the price of the home. And it takes a segment of the the population, like it just whittles away at the families who would be able to afford that home. So this is one of the things that is very critical to our communities. And I know you guys are doing really, really important work on that, and getting creative about how to do it and how to create more housing. And so those are things that, this statistic here just shows us how critical, how important it is that people who are still $87,000 is not a bad wage, but you can't qualify for some of, homes in your communities. And so it brings up a whole slew of other questions that we're going to have to be really considering in our communities. Like, how are we going to get creative about that? And
Monica, yay!
I think that was my last question. So congratulations, Monica. You were the big winner today. And thank you, all of you, for playing along with me. This was really fun to try out and kind of talk about housing and its importance. So it looks like, okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted because there's this information that's saying what was our hardest question about the national data of mothers. Anyway, thank you so much, Kelly, for inviting me to be a part of this. I really am grateful for the work that you and your team are doing on behalf of our families in Central Washington, and specifically in Kittitas County. And we are really happy to be a partner with you in that effort.
Likewise. So up next is Sybil.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I am also going to attempt to share my screen, so hopefully it will work. Let's see. Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I wasn't exactly sure how to go about doing this. I didn't really have
free form.
A ton of time to put it together, but I thought that this would work for me, and my pictures were not cooperating. So you get to use your imagination as I scroll through my slides. Let's see if I can get to my next slide. Okay, so this is me. I'm mom to 2 teenage children. I have a son, Quinn, and a daughter, Lena. I am the founder, director, and teacher for Washington Outdoor School. We are a nature-based outdoor immersion program. We serve children ages 0, so babies, all the way up to 13 now in Kittitas County. We are on lands cared for and called home by the people of the Yakama Nation since time immemorial. We began serving primarily preschool-age children during a pilot program in the winter of 2013 and offered summer camps for preschool and school-age children in 2014. First, we were really utilizing the Roslyn Urban Forest. We've since expanded to quite a few other places. We also initially ran under the umbrella of a local community organization, Our Town Community. They were a nonprofit that were very excited to bring us under their wing. Spearheaded by a lot of women in our community. And then we were able to obtain our own 501c3 status in the fall of 2015. By then, we were offering classes in Roslyn and had expanded to Ellensburg. We were invited by the Kittitas Environmental Education Network, KEEN, who I know many of you are probably familiar with, to just pilot a morning preschool class on Fridays in Helen McCabe State Park. So we've been excited to be a part of this community for the last over 7 years now, which is amazing. But I thought today what occurred to me to share about me and thinking just of the building blocks of a person's story. A lot of my life is just shaped by where I've been and where I've lived. And my life started in Texas. I was born there and was there until I was about 9. My strong memories of that are the spring and summer, being outside all the time, and bluebonnets, fields of bluebonnets. I spent every amount of time I possibly could in my backyard, swinging on the swing and climbing on my jungle gym. And that really just embedded in me this desire to be outside, which continued. We moved to Colorado when I was 9. And I think my memories there are really stitched together with the time I could be outside in the mountains, aspen trees blowing in the wind, clear rushing rivers, the camping trips we took, all of that. And I decided that I really needed to be a California girl though. So I moved to California and my life there was really connected to the tides. I became a runner and I would run almost every day and run on the beach or run near the beach. I always had views of or contact with the ocean, which was incredibly powerful for me. My dad had moved to Washington when I was in high school. So I'd spent many months in Seattle. And when I decided that I was going to move to Washington, it was really the trees probably that drew me here, and the beauty, just the diverse beauty of Washington State. And it was very, it just spoke to me in really powerful ways that I didn't even realize until I left again. I did student teaching in New Mexico and experienced the power of storms and change in an instant, and the excitement of that. And also went back to Texas one more time and re-experienced the magic of being under live oak trees and fireflies at night. Had a lot of root memories there that I needed to explore a little bit more. To know that really Washington State was where I wanted to be. And Roslyn, Washington ended up being my home now for the last 17 years. And it was a place that everything blended together. It smells like Colorado in the summertime, that warm vanilla pine scent. I get to be near rushing streams, at least seasonally in town, and then just very easily any other time of the year. If I just want to drive a little ways. The mountains are here. I have aspens in my yard. that I can see all the time. So I feel like somehow I was just fortunate enough to find this amazing place. And so really, my outdoor school vision is kind of was nurtured by all of those experiences for me being outside. From the time I was little to now, in it, I really felt like, being outside, I felt like, and still do feel free. I feel the most me. It was a natural evolution that I would decide that the best place for me to be a teacher would to be outside. And to do this, I had to start my own school. I believed I could start my own school because I had taught in a variety of settings with children of all ages. I had been a part of many brand new or pilot programs, and I knew what it took to build something from the ground up, and I was not afraid to try. I had a lot of people helping me along the way too. None of it was done by myself. And that is the next thing, but really that I did have the benefit of being able to stand on the shoulders of others who pioneered the idea for me. Many of them who were women, and their success, their encouragement, their ongoing efforts really buoyed me in my journey. They still do. And my program is ever evolving thanks to partnerships and building relationships wherever and whenever possible. What I do know for sure from all of the things that I've done and places I've been is that we do need each other to be successful. We need to listen to people's stories, to value those connections, and to always seek to include. And that most importantly, I guess for me and to put out into the world is that we are a part of the natural world. We're not apart from it. And that all of us, no matter who we are or where we live, and connecting to it does make us stronger, healthier, and better able to care for it. Because ultimately, if we're not caring for the natural world, it's not going to be able to care for us in return. And that, in all of this, we do need to tell our own stories too. So I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to share a bit about my story with you. Emily Jacobs had told me about it and invited me initially. So thank you, Emily. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be invited to this table, and I appreciate you all listening. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sybil. I've got like a billion questions for you already. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Monica.
Thanks, Sybil. And thanks, Emily Jameson, for the confidence boost a few minutes ago. Sybil, I also lived in Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado. So we're making connections and learning about each other. I'm the director of Gallery One, and with this daunting task of sharing something loosely in 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to try to weave sort of 3 things that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about over the past year, being those 3 things being the internet, art access, and equity. I've created a slideshow with using screenshots from our YouTube channel at Gallery One Ellensburg that I hope will highlight, for better or worse, some of the efforts that the gallery has been putting into how those 3 themes sort of intersect. And it should just run on a loop. We'll see. So you might see some things over a few times. So the thing about the internet is that there really is no ground to stand on, not to mention break when you reference breaking ground. And tomorrow, Gallery One is producing an event called Bachakacha, specifically on the World Wide Web. So I've been thinking a lot about our relationship to it, both my relationship to the internet and the gallery's relationship to the World Wide Web. The gallery, has been grounded on this land since 1968, a mere 53 years, while the first inhabitants from the Kittitas Band, now part of the Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakama Nation, have been here since time immemorial. It's been a task to stay grounded in the work that we do while sharing ourselves virtually. My work at Gallery One for the past 7 years has been to explore what it truly means to provide access to the arts for all. And it's been with that mission in mind that we have found ourselves forced into new territory over the past year, beginning with the shutdown in March of our in-person classes, our outreach in the schools, our many exhibits, and our important fundraising events. In some ways, the possibilities were exciting and gave us, by us, I mean our staff of 6 women and our board of 21. We challenged ourselves to continue to stay connected with the schools by creating Art2Go kits, of which we have distributed to date 1,600 in Kittitas County. They're project-based lessons. We challenged ourselves to be one of the first cities in the world to go virtual with our PK. We challenged ourselves to create virtual tours of artist studios, to create an online gift shop, and of course to continuously raise money. And you'll see here, there's snapshots of different videos that we have uploaded on YouTube, and it'll say the event, the date, and the views, some higher than others. So we got the Zoom account, we got the Gallery One Ellensburg YouTube channel, we got the mesh wireless system. If you don't know what that means, don't ask me. We got the fancy lights, we got the cameras. Our staff meetings, though, were twice a week for hours at a time, and we exhausted ourselves. Personally, I've spent more time this year looking at myself in the screen than engaging with actual people. My new saying is, you'll see me later. I've tried to have fun with it and embrace it, but I'm conscious about the reality that though our reach might on some level be wider, it might not be having the desired impact. At each turn, we have been rewarded with gratitude and cheers, so we've kept going. And in some ways, we have increased our reach, and in some ways we have not. While our board of directors, our attendance at our board meetings have been 100%, with members being able to Zoom in from wherever. I had somebody Zoom in from the bathroom of her hotel. Our classes for adults and kids with disabilities has been completely shut down. We're told that once you get online access, the world is your oyster. But getting that access and support is not yet equitable. We are applauded for the work that we have done, and I am proud. But in a time of deep disparity of resources, I worry about what we are doing for the all of our community. Art can help address adverse childhood experiences, surmount language barriers, it can help with social and emotional well-being, and it can help provide the 21st century skills of creativity, communication, and collaboration. But can it really do all of that online? In summary, it's been a hell of a year, and I am so grateful to the tools that the World Wide Web has offered us. But as the pandemic has shown us, the access gap is wide, worldwide. That's it for me. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will join us tomorrow at 7 o'clock live on YouTube at Gallery One Ellensburg. And if so, you'll see me later.
Thank you so much, Monica. You bring up some just really deep, thoughtful questions and things that I think we all need to think about. Again, a million questions for at the end. Karen, unmute that mic and you are up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karen Green. I'm going to be kind of reading from some of my notes. I didn't have time to do the fancy dancy slides. I wish I did. I am actually the executive director of the Ellensburg Downtown Association, and I am brand new. So I've only been here a month, and I'm actually brand new to Ellensburg itself as well. Been coming here my whole life, love the area. So when Kelly asked me to speak at this panel, I kind of thought, well, what do I have to say? She knows my story. She knows a little bit about me, but she doesn't know the whole thing. And so I thought, this would give me a little bit of an opportunity to share what it means to me to rebuild after loss. So less than 2 years ago, I was homeless. I was penniless. And I know that sounds dramatic, and I mean it to sound dramatic because I lived it. And to know about it, let me take you back a little bit further than that. I was pretty much your average woman, married, 2 daughters. We owned a beautiful historic home in North Tacoma. Apologize if you can hear the traffic going by outside. I can't change that. But anyways, all the things that you'd probably expect from somebody in their late 40s. My husband and I had really worked hard our whole lives. We don't come from money. We don't have, a silver spoon or anything that really helped us. We just really worked really hard to get where we were in our lives. And, we had married very young. We had had our children very young. And so by this time, our girls were out on their own, and we were kind of on cruise control. We thought, what, this is great. We're empty nesters now. We really have a chance to just enjoy life. We're still young. But in April of 2017, my husband started showing signs of illness. And it first started off, it was kind of unalarming. It was really just, he was feeling very fatigued and, just little things. But over time, they sort of started to compound. And I'd say within the 1 to 2 months, he was really, really ill, to the point where he couldn't even walk 2 or 3 steps without feeling like he needed to sit down or he was going to collapse. So obviously, it was time to see the doctor. So we went to the ER, and he had all the battery of tests and everything that goes into an ER visit. And then the ER doctor came in and said to me and my husband and my daughter, who had come up to the ER to be with us, Mr. Green, I believe in, being direct, but we believe that you have leukemia. And I felt like the world had caved in that moment. Cancer, you just don't think cancer. When you go to a hospital visit, you're thinking, oh, maybe he's just sick, or, we don't really know, but, cancer. And so we embarked on a very long journey of hospital stays. His initial stay was over 6 or 9 weeks. During that phase, he went through chemo, he went through surgeries, you name it, it happened. And, my daughters and I witnessed things that I would never wish upon my worst enemy, so to speak. But we really felt like he was young. We felt like the doctors had encouraged us he will be able to fight this. So that being said, we decided to, when conventional treatments weren't working, we decided, okay, well, what's our next step? He really wanted to live. So we decided to sell our home. We fundraised and we sent him to Mexico to a cutting edge facility there, which we had high hopes in, and really felt like this would be his chance to beat this leukemia. And it wasn't meant to be. April 11th of 2019, he passed away. And sorry if I get emotional, it's still pretty fresh. It's really hard to be vulnerable, but I really appreciate the opportunity. I was left alone and homeless. We had no money. I had nothing. And so I embarked on a situation where I needed to rebuild. There's no handbooks that tell you how to do it. It's just one day at a time. Sorry. So it's difficult because when you're married from the age of 20, you don't know who you are without that person, and you're rebuilding and trying to figure out who you are. And much like Sybil said, she's very attached to the earth and to trees and to everything. I had an opportunity to rebuild myself and reinvent myself. And for me, that meant maybe even looking at the opportunity of moving. And so this position here opened up doors for me to come home, as I like to say, because my family, we owned a cabin up in the Salmon-La-Sac area. And I've been coming up to these areas since I was a toddler. And so I totally understand that feeling of being rooted in nature and nature healing you. So to back up just a little bit, about 4 months after my husband passed away, I had a job opportunity land in my lap of being the working for a retreat center down in Tumwater, Washington. And as part of the negotiations for me taking this position, I asked if I could stay on site in one of the cabins, obviously, because first of all, I was homeless. And second of all, it kept me right there on site to be able to manage the retreat center. So over the course of the past year, myself and my dog, Harley, all we did was spend time in nature, healing and moving on with life. And so I don't really have any wonderful philosophical things to say about my journey on how I got here and rebuilding. But what I did want to say and what I wanted to emphasize is, and leave you with this, is that a lot of us have heard the saying, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. And it is fresh for me still. This weekend, I would have been celebrating my 29th wedding anniversary. And next month, it will be 2 years since he passed away. But I can tell you that my life is good. I am rebuilding, and I am finding the power back within myself to connect with people, to be vulnerable, to allow myself to share my story in the hopes that people will recognize that they're not alone and that they can rebuild, and that life will embrace you when you embrace it too. And so Kelly, I wanted to say thank you very much for inviting me to share this story, even though it's not polished and all of that. I wish it was, but I wanted to thank you. And I wanted to mention how funny how life comes full circle for us, in the fact that my husband used to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. He was a builder himself. And so we used to go to the Habitat for Humanity store in Tacoma to purchase paint and various building supplies. So I feel like he's looking down and saying, you know what, I want you to do this. So thank you, Kelly. That's about all for me.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Karen. Just thank you. And I'm glad you were in my life. Okay. Amy.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Well, Karen, I am blessed also to get to know you and have you in my life at this time. So thank you so much. And for everyone else prior to Karen, I am so blessed because I've known a few of you for quite some time, and I am getting to know some of you. So my name is Amy McGuffin. I am the CEO of Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce. I've been with the Chamber of Commerce for 10 years, and I've been in the Valley since 2005. My background also had me traveling quite a bit, mostly in the East Coast states. And I actually I grew up in a small town in the state of Washington called Ritzville. So if you're familiar with Ritzville, it's a very small wheat community. And my dad and mom were butchers. And I say my dad and my mom because my mom was right alongside him. And I think that's an interesting thing to build on for today, is the power of impact. All of you today have impacted me with your stories and the data points. I'm a data geek, so I loved that, Emily. So, but I think the power of impact is really a focus that I have had going in from pre-COVID to post-COVID now. And I'm struggling because I'm at another office. And so if I blank out, I apologize. As you can tell, I'm on my phone. So, you know, one of the things of impact is how you can tell your stories like you've done today, boldly and with confidence. And you all have done that, and I appreciate that. So my story is who am I, and how do I do it boldly and confident? Some of the things that people may not know about me is I played basketball, and I had a full ride scholarship for basketball. Went to practice and really got into it. And then a week before school started, I decided not to go to school. I withdrew. And I don't know if my parents ever just wanted to take me out to the woodshed, right? Because they never said anything. They smiled and they said, well, you've always done what's best for you. And that is an impactful statement from the people that bring you up. So as I was getting ready for graduation, I had my little 1987 Toyota Celica completely packed with everything that I felt was mine. And I left, and I went to Southern Idaho. Had no plan. All I knew is I paid for my housing. That was $600 a year, not a month, $600 a year. And I was gonna figure it out. Well, I enrolled in a different college, and the first week I went to the career advisor, and the career advisor said, well, bring in a resume. I brought in a resume of all of what my skills were at that time. And in that same moment, that career advisor says, why are you in school? And I thought, I don't have to be. I've already paid for my yearly housing. And so I withdrew from school. So I started my career at not a fancy place, but it was called Mickelson Ace Hardware. And that is my maiden name. And they were relatives that we didn't know were relatives, but with the same name. So I guess figure that one out. Worked there, loved the retail and the community of the contractors. It was the biggest Ace Hardware in the Southern Idaho. So you really had to be on top of your game, because the contractors were witty and you couldn't take things personal. And so there I was. I worked there for 1.5 years. And I think the things that impacted me drove me for the rest of my career choices. I left that town and moved back to Seattle and decided I'm going to be a hotel manager. Entered the hospitality career as a front desk agent in downtown Seattle. Very naive, may I add. And I lived there for about 3 years. Worked my way up to rooms operations manager in a 4-star hotel. And I decided, well, why not throw a curveball for my parents again? My brother was in Boston, Massachusetts, and his wife and himself had their first child, and they were looking for an au pair. So why couldn't Amy be an au pair? So I chose to sell everything and go to the East Coast. unbeknownst to everybody else in my family, I loved the East Coast. And so I stayed there for about 15 years. The best way to explain it is I was a West Coast young woman that was very naive, and I chose to live in probably one of the most difficult and unsafe areas in Boston. So I was the one that would walk the streets in white tank tops and jeans and flip-flops and not think a thing was going to affect me. And I enjoyed it very much for 15 years, and started doing some construction work for a developer that did a 5-star hotel remodel of a historic building in downtown Providence, Rhode Island. Enjoyed that very much, got a lot of experience, and then chose to simplify my life. So I chose to come back home. I had a 4-month sabbatical with my parents in Moses Lake. And those 4 months, I built an extra home with my parents. I just was out just working without a cause, really. And so when that kind of started my simplicity of life, I guess the impact to me was I really loved small towns, and I enjoyed the camaraderie and the collaboration that you find. And so I was introduced to Ellensburg, and I moved to Ellensburg in 2005. And I was the hotel manager of the Best Western property here in town. I worked there for 8 years, and that was when I was introduced to the Chamber of Commerce world. And boy, what a world to jump into. I was introduced and created the position of Director of Tourism at that time, and was in that position for 8 years, and built up a lot of opportunities in the tourism industry countywide, and met my husband. And did I tell you that my life is not dull? Because my husband is born and raised here in Ellensburg. And the song that comes to your mind whenever you say, I married a cowboy, what song comes to your mind? Anybody? Don't let your boys become cowboys. I can't even remember it from now on, but he keeps me on my toes. And so I hit the rodeo trail with him. I am not a horse rider. I don't ride horses. I think they're incredible, majestic animals. I love the farm life. I love the smells of farm life. And so we hit the rodeo trail. And when I say we hit it is because I was his driver, pretty much. I wasn't driving Miss Daisy. I was driving Ellensburg Cowboy. And we hit 100% of the rodeos that he attended in his circuits. And so I really enjoyed that quite a bit, because you really see the simplicity of Western lifestyle. And so we obviously are married. I have 2 kids, and Colt and Maggie. And this year, COVID has really brought our family closer. My son was diagnosed with high functioning autism this year, which, if you have not met a family or a parent that has an autistic kid, it has its own struggles, but they are amazing, amazing kiddos. He loves art, and he just loves to be in the limelight. I did not expect myself to get emotional. So, and my daughter Maggie is our cowgirl, Miss Maggie Jean. She is quickly learning what calving means, and she loves it. We have some cattle on our farm, and we're currently on baby number 4, and she is up every morning, early morning, checking to see if we have a new baby. So she is loving it. So what does that mean for me in the chamber world is we are currently 100% women ran nonprofit We've been around since 1911. And I love all of my employees for their strengths that they bring to our organization. And really for the strength that they brought the community. It has built a great communication resource for the community. And so I just feel like by building one another up as women and being impactful into our community, not only are we seeing it on this screen, but I think every day I meet somebody that is impacting our communities countywide. There's so many to mention, and I actually asked my staff to give me a list, and now I can't pull it up. So I don't want to start with naming one and forgetting some. So there are just incredible women that are in our county that are making an impactful statement for us and building a pathway for all of us. And so to end this, I just really want to thank the opportunity, Kelly. Habitat for Humanity is an incredible organization. I know several of your tenants in homes that you have built for their families, and we have volunteered in the past on some of those community builds. So I know how impactful it is as an organization, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak today.
You're quite welcome, Amy. Thank you for sharing your story. And I love the fact that, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable, right? You know, Monica actually taught me that, and I don't know if she knows that she taught me that. But when I moved back home to Ellensburg, I did a PK. I say PK because I can never pronounce pronounce it properly, but it started that for me, the ability to be vulnerable and have that be okay. And I think that there's such a powerful strength in our vulnerability that we can share with each other. So thank you. And Amy, we definitely need to grab a drink because several spots on your story connect with mine. My first apartment was in East Boston. And I was an au pair back there and worked for the Marriott Corporation. So we need to get a drink. Yeah. And with that up, next is the delightful Katie.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to see so many new faces and so many familiar faces. I'm really, really excited to be here. And as I understand it, we should be able to share my screen. I have two computer screens because I do so much homework. Can you guys see this? Okay, good. Sorry, my internet froze. I apologize. So, I feel like this is a weird everything, a weird video. Okay. All right. So, I wanted to start by, I'm trying to figure this out. I apologize.
Yep, that's right.
There we
Katie.
go.
If you hit that, we'll just see your PowerPoint. There you go.
Thank you. So this is my family. Jeremy is my husband. We have 3 kids, Clara, Evelyn, and Gabriel. And we are a Habitat for Humanity family. To begin, I'll just introduce, I was born in Yakima. I'm the middle of 3 girls. This is a picture of my older sister and me. And I'm very quirky, and I'm totally okay with that. And I'm always up for taking a fun photo, fun selfie. I'm very blessed. My husband is my best friend, and we've known each other since 2001. We got married at 22 in 2008. So I'm a student at Central. I'm studying elementary ed with a Spanish minor, and I'm set to graduate next June. I'm a huge fan of everything Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, so I love it. Naturally, I'm a huge fan of my kids. I love my kids. I think that they're so much fun. They keep me on my toes. And since becoming a mom, I've become very thoughtful about what is it that I'm teaching my children? These people that I'm raising, that I'm teaching, that I'm leading, what is it that I'm setting an example for them? How am I legacy for my posterity? And am I personally living my life to the fullest? And I've thought about that a lot. And I think it's important that we share this. I'm almost always afraid. I'm afraid to go places by myself. I'm afraid to try new things. Anything that's a challenge, anything that creates growth, because that's what it is, to change, to try new things. It's creating growth. And sometimes I'm still afraid, but I do want to change. I want to represent something bigger for my children. And that's what this theme has meant to me. I've thought about it a lot, is how we as women have so much influence in the home and in the community and in the world. And I love this quote from Maya Angelou. I would like to be known as an intelligent woman, a courageous woman, a loving woman, a woman who teaches by being. And I think that we have such a unique place in this world that is not above man, it is not below man, but we have such an impact that we can bring to our children and to our communities. And like I said, I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. All we have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given us. And courage will now be your best defense against the storm that is at hand. And of course, that was Gandalf. But I think that it's something that we can really apply as we are doing new things, as we are trying to adapt to this ever-changing world. I mean, the pandemic alone has changed so much for us, the royal we. So how do we do this? How do we become courageous? How do we push those boundaries when we're so scared? How do we reach our fullest potential? And how do we exemplify our roles as women, as individuals, and as citizens of this world? Again, as my kids, I want my kids to see me always learning and always growing, because to me, in my philosophy of life, that is vital. It is very, very important. So we have to start somewhere. We have to start with a choice, a single decision, something that whatever it is in our life that we want to change, we have to decide, all right, we're doing this. We're gonna try, and we're going to give it our fullest, most intentional effort. It cannot be partially done. It cannot be half done. It has to be intentional. And then we don't stop. We go in full force, and we just do not stop until we get there. So for me, after we moved into our home, I decided it was time to go back to school. And mind you, I wasn't a good student in high school, and I didn't care if I was going to graduate. And I was so terrified. I had this thought that I was stupid. I had this thought that I was not intelligent. And so for the very first quarter back to school, I had 2 kids at home. My other was in first grade. My husband was working. And my GPA, I wanted to reach the 3.5 GPA. That was my goal. That first quarter, I got a 3.464. And I was so mad. I was so angry. And I missed the point. That's an excellent GPA. But I had it in my mind that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't there. So I tried. I said I was going to be intentional, and I wasn't going to stop until I got it. So the very next quarter, I reached my goal. And that was my turning point. This is a very well-worn letter that I keep, and I call it my get out of jail free card. It is something that reminds me of that intrinsic strength that I have that is undeniable. This is evidence for me to show the world that I'm capable. I can do this. I can be whatever I want. And this was vital for me. It was my turning point. And so since then, I decided I wanted to try new things. I've gone to the movie theater in the middle of the night by myself and gone out to restaurants and stuff, but I wanted to do more. And I, with my kids, this is my daughter Clara and me, we went to the fair, and I am not always a fan of rides, but I wanted Clara to know that she could do it, right? She could do whatever she wants. She well went above and beyond what rides I was willing to do, but I'm right there with her because I want her to see that mom can conquer fears. This is Gabriel. He's 6. And like I said, I don't like going places by myself, but this is over at the Snoqualmie Falls. And Gabriel and I, one day without Jeremy, we went and we hiked the whole dang thing, and we had lunch and we had the greatest time. It was so much fun. Another thing that, I feel like everybody has, something that they're a little embarrassed about. But when I was in high school, we played donkey basketball. Now, if you don't know what donkey basketball is, you ride on donkeys, you try to shoot, you get off your donkey, you can't let go, you got to climb back on your donkey. Well, donkeys have another common name. They're quite stubborn, and you don't wear a saddle when you ride a donkey. So if you have this beast who has its own mind and is moving to and fro, and you don't have a saddle, how are you going to get on? Well, that's part of the challenge. So in high school, I hopped on this donkey and I couldn't get back on. And I was so embarrassed, right? And I've told my kids this story. Well, then I found out their school was doing donkey basketball. And I didn't want to let that. Yes, I did not want to let it be that negative memory. So guess who signed up? This girl. So I went and I signed up, and I was terrified. I mean, I was just sweating. I felt no saddles. So I was so afraid that I was going to get off my donkey and I couldn't get back on. Well, guess what happened? I got off my donkey and I couldn't get back on. And this time, with the new mindset, with my get out of jail free card, it was okay. It was okay. Yeah, it was a little embarrassing. But when I looked at the crowd who was laughing, I realized they weren't laughing at me. They were laughing with me. They understood that it was a hard thing to do. And so many people afterwards were so encouraging, and they said, "Oh, you did such a great job. You were such a great sport." So for me, I want to keep going and pushing those boundaries where I feel uncomfortable, where I'm scared, where I feel like I am just going to lose it on the sidewalk because I'm so worked up about trying something new, about creating a new pathway. This is something that I try to teach my kids. It had been a long time since I had gone and gotten a good quality paella. Paellas are a frozen fruit popsicle, right? I want my kids to experience new things with me. So I hadn't had a paella in a while. Top right corner, Clara and I doing a spa day. Part of it is trying something new. I now have no facial hair because that charcoal mask, it was great. It was fantastic. And as I mentioned, I'm a student. I'm a junior this year. I'm so excited to graduate next year. I stay up at night thinking about school, but part of it is that I get to participate in community events. And last year, when the pandemic started shutting everything down, I still had a few hours that I needed to do for community service. Kids aren't in school. I didn't know what to do. And I thought, well, I'm a mom. I know how hard it is sometimes to buy diapers. So I recruited some of my peers and we did a diaper drive for Fish Food Bank. I don't like going up to people and saying, "Hey, do you want to donate?" It's very, very hard for me, but I did it. And I'm so excited that I did it because it was an opportunity to take pictures. I showed them to my kids. Guess how much money we raised? Pounds in diapers and wipes and other supplies. When people are running in from different counties trying to get, their toilet paper at the time and their cleaning supplies, there's so many people in this community that, as we've expressed, good people in this community. So pushing myself to try new things. And I thought about, how can we do this? What are some things that we can push ourselves, because it might vary for different people. But I have 5 concepts that are adapted from Inc.com on their website, this article about 10 ways to live a more courageous life. And I'll only share 5 of them. So the first, you have to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability, when you overcome the vulnerable side of you, you're able to grow. You're able to triumph. You're able to accept things that you might not have been able to previously. The next thing, you have to face your fears. These can be very, very scary. And I feel like this particular one is the action that speaks volumes behind it. You can be so afraid, but trying something new, trying to create a legacy for your posterity is vital. The next one, no failure, but press forward. As we know, failure is going to happen. That is part of life. But it is through failure that we learn, that we're able to grow. It's very, very uncomfortable, but that is when we grow the greatest. And then keep pushing forward, continue learning, continue to try. And lastly, I would like to have is add into that is having grace with yourself. Yes, we make mistakes. We can't climb back up on that darn donkey who's running around, but we can be patient with ourselves, and we need to show ourselves love because we have little, eyes and people in the community who are watching us, and the way that we treat ourselves is going to speak volumes for the next generation. One of our mantras in our family is be the buffalo. I have a very dear family member who had breast cancer, and I'm so grateful that she was able to overcome her hardships. But in our family, the buffalo, the bison, they represent this intrinsic strength. And so this kind of became our family mantra. And if you know, when a storm comes in, the buffalo don't run away from the storm. They know that they cannot outrun the storm. Cattle and everything else, they'll run away from the storm, but they still get caught up in it. But buffalo have this intrinsic drive, this internal drive that pushes them towards the storm, and they come out all the stronger. And to me, I hope that this makes sense, that you'll be able to understand my point of view of what it is to, break the ground and build impact and set a legacy where you yourself can be the buffalo and have that experience for others. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to participate. I'm so grateful for those who have spoken and for the opportunity to be here. So thank you.
Wow, that was just wonderful. Thank you. I'm left with a sense of just, running towards the storm, right? And also a major Lord of the Rings geek right here. Huge. I say it's only because of my son. I just watched all 3 extended versions. So we are now in our Q&A period. If anybody wants to unmute, or everybody can unmute, and we can free for all. As we're going through this, we had a few folks that had to hop off at 4 o'clock for other things going on, but I'd love to have the opportunity for those that want to ask questions to do that. Anyone? So I do have one question. I think that we've heard a lot about courage. We've heard a lot of vulnerable tales and truths of who we are. And the question I have, I think, for all of you is on your journey of discovering you, when did you first feel that you had an impact on your own life? Mine was when I had my first baby, which I discovered I was never having babies, and I ended up having a ton. But I sat there and bawled and bawled and bawled because I couldn't even bake a cake out of a box. I mean, I kid you not. I couldn't do that, but I made a baby. And the irony of, holy crap, I have to get my act together. I'm responsible for this. If my cake falls, my cake falls. My kid can't fall. I have to have that impact. And that was a huge, terrifying moment that had me running into the storm. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've never stopped running into the storm.
I would say that for me, it's when I decided to get divorced. I was 35. I had a 15-month-old. I mean, this was a decision that took 4 years to make, you know. But getting to that point where I realized that my son deserved to have at least one happy parent, and it sure wasn't going to be his dad, and it wasn't going to be me if I stayed married to his dad. And it was a hard choice, but it was really hard being married in all the dynamics of the marriage at the time. Those were hard. Those were miserable. And I remember my sister saying to me, she said, well, single women are like the lowest on the totem pole. And I was just like, but I have to try. I mean, it can't be worse than it is right now, you know? So I traded one hard for another hard, but I found myself, and if I had known how, you know, setting him down and saying like, we need to get divorced was so difficult, but my soul like did a little leap for joy, and I wasn't prepared for that. Like, to do the very hard thing that you've been putting off for so long, but when you finally do it, and that was like a little bit of the spark, or, you know, the actually the coming back to life that I got to start doing for myself in my own way. And, you know, it's been 5 years now, but truly one of the hardest things I've ever done, because it was when I started to live my life for me and get to be more of the like master and commander of my own ship, and, you know, truly leaning into the wind in that regard.
Anyone else?
I think
Go
for
ahead.
me, I was just gonna say, like, I think that we all know that things in life happen and they're hard, and sometimes we don't always have the tools to handle them, the skill sets. So during the time that I decided to start back with school, I also attended therapy for a year, where I learned a lot of those skills, where traumas and negative experiences that I experienced, I wasn't at fault for them at all. And it's very, very hard to talk about still, because there's such a negative stigma that comes with mental health. But with that, I learned about what it is to be intentional and to be mindful and to create more positive experiences. And it was this awakening that happened right at the same time that school started. And I don't think that I could have done it earlier with better success, but because of that, the pandemic's been hard, but now having kids at home while I'm still trying to continue my education and trying to survive mentally, emotionally, you know, without seeing my parents, you know, more than once or twice a year, or my sisters, it's amazing that the change that will follow. But as Emily said, you have to take that step for yourself, and from there you're able to have that peace in your heart. So which is, I think for me, that is quite exciting.
I was just gonna say that I think the first time I really realized the power of having, the sun is coming in kind of weird, the power of having an intention, and realizing that if I really believed in something and wanted something to happen, that it was possible. And that came from high school, I think, realizing that I wanted to go to school in California, and where I wanted to go, why I wanted to go there. I just set that intention for myself to do that. And
then I was there. And it was super powerful to realize that what I could think and believe for myself was possible. And I think probably having that early experience allowed for all the other experiences along the way, which, I mean, there have been lots of twists and turns and obstacles and things like that. But I think just I've had this knowledge inside me that I can make things happen. But it starts with me. It does start with that intention. So.
Well, I just want to say thank you again to everyone for just a tremendously honest program today. It was exactly what I had hoped for. I think that not everything that we do has to have a purpose. I think we can just be in the moment, and I felt like we allowed that to happen today. So thank you for everyone sharing your story. Thank you for those that tuned in to listen to the stories and be a part of this. And I look forward to when we can do this again in person, as well as the one thing about this format that is kind of nice is that we can broaden our net, and be able to meet more people. And so thank you very much for helping build this little house today. That is mighty, right? So thank you all very much. And I'm just very grateful to have heard all of you today.
Thank you too.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.